speaking of people like Mable, hashtag prisoner popped up on my timeline, and I'm gonna stop you right there because I don't think it's anywhere close to what you're thinking. There's a rather graphic video spreading like wildfire on the socials, candidly portraying sexual activity between an official and an inmate at the Ngome Correctional Center in KZN. Yikes.
Yeah, some of us made it to Wednesday, but some people are going to struggle to get to the end of the week. And as expected, Twitter had a lot to say. Aura Mather said this: "It still surprises me till this day that people record themselves having sex. Like, why?
Sex, more sex.
A lot of sex tapes always leak online, but people just don't want to learn. Hashtag prisoner." I didn't want to say it twice. Another one, this one's from Vida. "The only wrong a woman did was to have sex at work because it is unethical. But otherwise, if she had cheated on someone, there is nothing wrong with it. Men do it all the time, and women have to accept it as standard in relationships. Hashtag prisoner."
Off the bat, I have got 1,000,001 questions, but I just want to ask you guys on the table, did you see the video?
Like 100 times, I'm kidding. Yes, I saw the video.
Alone late at night?
Mo, this is serious. So guys, before you guys tell me what you think, I just want to handle the biggest problem that I had with that video. It seems like South Africans do not understand one important thing. Guys, it is unlawful to share videos of people having sex unless they give you authorization. The fine on that thing is up to 150,000 or 2 years imprisonment. The people that were sharing it on WhatsApp, the people that were sharing it on Instagram, the people that were sharing it on Twitter, you guys committed a crime today. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I mean, here's the other thing, okay? Prisons are supposed to be a place where people are rehabilitated. You've committed a crime, you go in there to serve your time for all the wrongs you've done. So when we see videos like this of prison warders and inmates having sex, it creates a completely disturbing picture about what is happening in our, well, not so correctional service facilities. Because, I mean, if that stuff keeps happening, I mean, one has to wonder, you know, are we living up to the idea of correctional service? What is going on in our prisons? You know, we can handle the videos of people singing, you know, but this is a different song altogether.
I think for me, the issue here is kind of the blurry line of consent. I think when someone's in a position of power, like a warden is, it then speaks to whether or not the prisoner has that much consent, whether he was felt like he had no choice, coercion. And I think also he could have been manipulating something. He could have been like, oh, I want this, I want that. But for me, power dynamics are always really important when looking at a sexual relationship, because I don't know if you have that much consent when you're in the position that is not of power. Do you know what I mean?
And then you got to ask yourself, with everything that happens in prison, clearly there's criminal activity that happens in there. Clearly inmates and warders are doing things, you know, favors in return, quid pro quo, help me do this, I'll help you maybe escape prison, I'll help you do, etc. I'll try and make life easier for you in prison. It is just a really disturbing situation, what is going on in there, and we condemn it fully. Speaking of all things problematic and even matters of consent, hashtag Sitelo was making the rounds on the timeline after DJ and influencer Sitelo Shozi made her relationship with her boyfriend Andile Mpisani Instagram official. So Sitelo caught the wrath of Twitter after the Twitter FBIs, and they do wonderful work. They did some calculations, and they came to the conclusion that Sitelo is 27 this year, making her roughly 7 years older than her 20-year-old bae. Yo, we got to applaud Angie Mutsecha for the sterling work that the Department of Education has done in making sure that people can do riveting maths. And let me tell you, the plot twist had Twitter up in a frenzy. I mean, this led to, you know, the trend actually becoming hashtag #RStelly. The fact that Andile, 2 years ago, had a child with Sitelo. The child is obviously now 2, which effectively means that he should have been about 18, maybe minus a couple of months, and she was 24 when they became parents. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I think, again, I mean, with the conversation above, I think there's such a blurry line. I think it's so weird. First of all, grooming is obviously, for me, the topic at hand. I did see this tweet, which I think summarizes my whole thing, so I do want to bring it up before I get into more of my commentary. But Chat with Childcare said the whole Sitelo and Andile situation is proof of how much Black South Africans have normalized predatory pedo behavior in our society. We think just because we saw old men date our friends in high school, that it's normal. It's not. We need to unpack this rape culture ASAP. So yeah, I do think that coming to a situation where even if people want to write, oh, it was legal age or it wasn't legal age, the whole point is that this was a teenager and she was an adult. And I think the person who's wrong in the situation is obviously Sithelo, because you can't look at a child and think there's a relationship there, no matter how old they are.
The problem here, Lesego, first of all, if we were sitting, just you and I would say, I get it. I understand the concept of grooming, and I get how problematic it can be. It is, however, problematic that we are always on Twitter and we have these conversations because we're all liberals and we understand, we talk down on people. The conversation that we should be having is to go and actually speak about what grooming is. Because if you go to my township, where I grew up, you do find 17, 18-year-old boys dating 21, 22-year-olds. It's a thing that keeps on happening, you know, and it's a culture that's there. But whenever we confront ourselves with these conversations, we don't actually speak on them. We speak at the people, and that's why people still don't get these things. That's why when you go to townships right now, people are still playing R. Kelly because they don't understand exactly what he did wrong.
Some people do understand, they just don't care.
Maybe.
I mean, you raise some valid points, but one of the other things we have to perhaps factor into this is, you know, looking at Andile and Sithelo in terms of their own social context, their backgrounds, you know, their families. I mean, Andile comes from a pretty well-off family, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that she's after the money, but I'm just saying that he may have been exposed to so much in terms of life experience because of the access that he has and the family that he comes from, that she might also feel that maybe she's at the same level, or maybe this is something that she aspires to. It doesn't make it correct to be doing certain things, but I think it's important to understand the other factors surrounding this, and even her own background. We don't know what her maturity levels are. Yeah. We don't know the kind of company she keeps, the friends she has. So again, I mean, you're going to go that young, there are certain things you've got to consider.
I do think if this was a man who was 24 and a woman who was 17, 16, we wouldn't be talking about his maturity and trying to explore the background of everything. I think we normalize this because she's a pretty woman and because she's a woman. I think it is completely out of order and it's borderline predatory.
Guys, we can actually talk about this the whole entire day, but we need a whole episode dedicated to this. So the hashtag Prof Mahwala popped up on my timeline after the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Johannesburg took to his social media to share an interesting tweet in which he asked this question: can an engineering graduate who completed a 4-year degree in 7 years possibly be a good engineer? The same logic applies to other disciplines.
I'm just thinking how many years it took me to complete my studies. It should have been 3 years, but I don't know how long it eventually took. But you know what? His tweet, which has since gone viral, has polarized views from scholars and students, and I guess the general public. And they had a lot to say, including this. Murongwa Tapelo says, the assumption is, the assumption of this question is too scary to ponder. A degree certifies that one has successfully completed a qualification in engineering. It says he is competent to practice as one. Should we put competent versus good, cum laude versus no cum laude? I disagree. Another sentiment comes in from 777 Stella _ are you innovative, Prof? Since you're in academia, where's your rocket? Where's the car, the cell phone, anything?
Get in.
You know, take us to Mars, Prof. Atomic _ Phenom says, I think Prof is simply asking, can you consider trusting a professional who took long to grasp concepts and eventually failed and repeated certain modules to obtain his or her degree? What does that say about his competency in the field? I think it's a fair question to ask. That's according to that tweet.
Anyway, so we're on the line and we are joined by Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Johannesburg, Professor Tshilidzi Mahwala, to react to his tweet. Hi, Professor, how are you doing?
No, I'm doing all right. I am quite surprised that this was trending. Really? But I think the important issue that people are actually missing is the fact that 35% of the students who come to our university system actually never graduate. That only 30% of the people actually complete in record time. That can't be something to be celebrated. I think us as educators, what we should be asking ourselves is that what do we have to do in order to make sure that our students actually succeed? Does it mean that we must put more tutors Does it mean that the consultation must be longer than what it is now? I think this is really what it is all about. If I can give you some of the facts, the graduation, the dropout rate is almost twice the graduation rate. And we can't accept that. We have to do everything within our power to make sure that our students actually succeed.
Prof,
Yeah.
I just want to ask, we're living in an era where mental health and we have to understand people's financial backgrounds. I think that a lot of people that were reacting to that tweet saw you just linking it to just academia and intellect. What do you say to those people that drop out because they've got mental health issues? What do you say to those people that drop out because they come from families who cannot afford?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the statistics actually is quite interesting. You know, if we were to agree with your logic, only people who can afford will be graduating. That is not the case. Our graduations, I mean, I can almost give you statistics. More than 70% of the people who are graduating from the University of Johannesburg are first-time people to graduate from their families. Yes, you know, those exceptions, and we have to create an environment to deal with those. Here at the University of Johannesburg, we have psyched specifically to deal with those issues. But I don't think mental health is a pandemic. It's something very, very serious that has to be tackled. And any university that does not have systems to be able to deal with that better create such systems.
Well,
so to answer your question, I think we can do more, and we should do more in order to make sure that our students actually succeed.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. You've wrapped it up for us. May you have a great evening.